Good morning, Danelle Boyd here, and in this video I'm going to be walking you through my approach to creating minimal aesthetic portraits of animals. I'm here in Mara North Conservancy with Alex Walker Serian camps, and this morning we are heading out to look for animals in this open landscape. Masaai Mara, and in particular Mara North Conservancy, is the best place in the world to create these types of minimal aesthetic portraits because of this openness and the ability to spot animals from far distances away. In addition, on the Conservancy here, we have the ability to move around more freely on the roads and of course off of the roads because we are on Conservancy land and not in a national park. And to get into position to create images with many different compositional elements like individual trees in the landscape, the tall grass, to create images that are impactful and draw attention to the subject here in this location. Minimal aesthetic doesn't always mean nothing is in the image. What it means is that there is harmony or balance, symmetry and compositional sort of synergy that draws attention to the subject or the thing that you want people to see most in the image. What I'm going to be looking for is topi that I can balance with the different compositional elements that are here in this landscape. What I really like about this species is its incredible horns and its face structure. So in creating images of this particular species, I'm going to be focusing on trying to draw attention to its body shape, its posture, as well as some close-ups of the face and just the incredible aesthetic of the eyes and the coloration in its body. I really like to shoot in black and white, and that doesn't mean that all my images are actually captured in black and white. What it means is that while I'm shooting in RAW, I use a creative profile to be able to see the images on the back of the camera and in the eyepiece in black and white. And the reason why I do this is it allows me to really focus in on the form and the composition within an image. Whereas color contrast and colors can be really important when you're editing your images. When I'm out here in the field, especially when creating minimal aesthetic images of animals, I want to be able to focus in on the compositional elements, the shapes, the body postures, and the things that really matter when I'm actually out in the field. Without the distraction of color, I can really zone in on those things and incorporate them in the image to create the story that I really am looking for. We've been fortunate enough to actually find a group of zebras, a dazzle of zebras. And as we approach them, want to be keeping, whoa, my hat on my head, want to be keeping in mind the ability to incorporate multiple subjects into minimalistic portraits. And we can see that as we approach these zebras, they're actually interacting a lot with each other. So the advantage of minimalism is that we can create images that draw emphasis to these interactions. It's not so much about what we exclude from the image, but it's about what we incorporate into it, which can also draw attention to these interactions. Now, of course, I'm out here photographing African animals in the Masaai Mara in a place that is very open, but you can incorporate some of these techniques into creating portraits of any animals or any subjects wherever you are in the world by considering including and excluding different compositional elements to draw attention to the subject, the interactions between subjects, and this is the power of minimalism. We found some giraffe in a little bit more of a thick area, and I still want to create some minimal portraits of them. Gonna try to see if we can use some of the foreground elements like this tall grass and maybe some of the bushes behind them to create a foundation or an established sort of composition to make them stand out. Despite there being lots of other trees and bushes around, we can still create minimal aesthetic even though we're not in the open area. Okay. Right here is great. If we can just stop right here. Okay, that's great. At the moment, I've gotten sort of a safety shot of this giraffe as he's next to this small bush. but I want to try to get a little bit lower and use this foreground grass as a blurring technique to reduce the texture, reduce the overall elements within the image to make it more minimal. Because this grass, as it leads up to the giraffe, has a lot of texture, and that sort of distracts away from what I want to draw emphasis to, which is the giraffe here in this landscape. So if I get lower, the grass will be more blurry, and I'll be able to create a much more minimal image, which draws emphasis to the giraffe. Since I got down, the giraffe is a little bit curious of what is over here, so he started to walk towards a little bit and posture facing me, so it's actually a bit of a better composition. They're pretty relaxed, just a little bit curious of what moved onto the ground, and that's part of their behavior. They'll really just stare at what I think is a predator, which I guess is me, to make that predator aware that it has been seen. And it's a pretty cool opportunity to create some minimal portraits in this scenario. You're getting it even a little bit closer.
Yeah, you got
Bye. Bye.
it?
Found 2 elephants here in this open area, and I think what we're gonna try to do is, Henry, do you think we could get quite far ahead of them and onto the ground to try to get any portraits of them like walking towards us? Like, is there a distance that you think would be okay?
We can try from over there.
Okay.
Then you come down.
Okay.
But we have to be walking because we are upwind.
That's true. That's true. So they'll. Okay. Yeah. Whatever we can do to try to get a position where we're lower to the ground. Maybe we can go ahead of them again. I'm going to try to use a different lens now. Use this 70-200. Yeah, it could be cool to get on the other side of it. Now we're definitely lower than them, which is really advantageous because there's nothing else besides sky behind them. It's super unique to have that in creating a portrait of an animal. As they're coming downhill here into this little valley, we have the lower vantage point. Yeah, I'm gonna try to maybe get them with a tree. We can hook a left here. We can go back further, yeah. Okay, go a little bit further down. Okay, that should be, woo, good right, woo, good right there. Okay, actually don't even need to get onto the ground right now because lower. We're a little bit lower than they are, so that's pretty good. I'm focusing on just one of the elephants. Been so cool to create these portraits of them with this tree that was right here. And as they move by it, waiting and anticipating for some body postures and movements to incorporate with the tree. I just love this aesthetic so much. And all of these rocks. This place rocks. Could we stop here? Stop here? Maybe it's gonna go down here.
Yeah.
Definitely got something I like. I love how as they're moving through the landscape, there's like these individual trees and can create compositional balance with keeping it really minimal and showing as they're moving through the landscape as a pair. I did get the birds. Another element to like have in the image is like these birds like that are swooping around here. These little, I think these are, what are these, swallows? Swallows, yeah. It makes it more dynamic while still minimal. They're pretty blurry. Maybe they won't be as prominent. I could have increased my aperture, but we'll see when I review the photos. It can't get any more minimal than this. We're sitting here having our breakfast and there's 4 giraffes walking along the horizon line with this huge open plain, and the foreground is like one consistent texture and the sky is one consistent sort of gray-blue. They're moving around just across this huge open landscape, and this is why the Mara is my favorite, to be able to create these minimal aesthetic images of wildlife.